Lena had always been fascinated by the world of fashion and modeling. So when she was scouted by a prestigious agency in New York, it felt like a dream come true. The bright lights, the glamorous shoots, and the instant recognition made her feel like she had finally found her place. But something strange began happening just as her career started taking off. It all began when Lena was booked for a high fashion shoot in an old abandoned mansion on the outskirts of the city. The house was known for its airy Gothic architecture, but the photographer insisted it would add an artistic edge to the photos. Reluctantly, Lena agreed, thinking it would be the perfect shot to elevate her career. The mansion was dimly lit, with heavy velvet curtains drawn tightly across the windows. The photographer, a quiet and enigmatic man named Victor, set up his camera in the grand hall, where an enormous mirror covered an entire wall. The mirror was ornate, but there was something off about it. Lena couldn't put her finger on it, but she felt uneasy whenever she glanced at her reflection. "Let's start with a few shots in front of the mirror," Victor instructed, his voice cold and detached. Lena stood in front of the mirror, her reflection staring back at her. But as Victor clicked the shutter, something unsettling happened. For a brief moment, she saw a different version of herself in the reflection. Her hair was darker, her eyes hollow, her skin pale. It was as if she were looking at a version of herself that didn't belong to this world. Shaking off the strange feeling, Lena posed again, trying to focus on the shoot. But the airy reflection kept haunting her. Every time Victor snapped a photo, the image in the mirror seemed to change, growing more sinister with each shot. At one point, she saw her reflection smiled at her. But it was not her smile. It was sharp, twisted, and malevolent. She backed away from the mirror, breathing heavily. "I need a break," she said, her voice trembling. Victor didn't respond. He simply motioned for her to return to the mirror, but the more she resisted, the more the reflection seemed to call to her. Lena's heart pounded in her chest. As the room felt colder, the air thicker. Just as she was about to turn and leave, she heard Victor's voice. But it was not quite right. It echoed in a way that felt distorted, like a whisper that came from the mirror itself. "You can't escape it. She has already taken you." Lena's pulse quickened, and she glanced at the mirror once more. This time her reflection was no longer standing still. It moved, stepping forward, as if it were trying to break free from the glass. And then, with a terrifying suddenness, the reflection reached out and grabbed her wrist. Lena screamed, but her body couldn't move. She was frozen, trapped in the grip of something unnatural. As she struggled, the reflection grinned, revealing teeth that were far too sharp, far too real. "Help, Victor!" she screamed, but the photographer had vanished. She was alone. The reflection in the mirror began to pull her in, dragging her closer to the cold surface. Lena's breath was caught in her throat as her hand was drawn toward the glass, the coldness seeping into her skin. With a violent lurch, she was yanked into the mirror, her body pressed against the cold, smooth surface. For a moment, everything went dark. When Lena awoke, she was no longer in the mansion. She was inside the mirror, surrounded by a distorted, endless reflection of herself. Her once beautiful face was now twisted, like 1,000 shattered shards of glass, and she could hear the faint whispers of other trapped souls around her. They too had been models, people who had once sought fame, beauty, and recognition. But the mirror, it seemed, had taken them all. Desperate, Lena pounded on the glass, but it was of no use. She couldn't escape. The only thing left was the reflection of herself, standing in the mirror, forever watching, forever waiting. And then, as if by some cruel twist of fate, she saw a figure, Victor, walking past the mirror, oblivious to her screams. "Another one for the collection," he muttered, his voice distant. Lena realized with horror that she had become just another image in his endless portfolio, her soul forever trapped inside the glass, unable to escape. The mirror was now hers, forever.